Delighted to be your host, privileged to be your host for the 3 hours every weekday morning from 7:30 until 10:30. Dr. Grady McMurtry with me now in studio, scientist, sir.
Yes, sir. Pleasure to be with you.
Good to see you. Which part of the States do you hail from?
Well, I'm originally from California, but I live in Florida today.
Wow. It's amazing too.
You know, I must love my fellow compatriots here because I left 83 degrees in Orlando to come here, and it's wintertime.
No. See these Christians, how they love each other.
That's
they
right.
give up the temperature to come to the cold.
That's
you
right.
see, this is it. But what your science discipline is what?
Well, I have a very broad-based science background. I was an evolutionist. I used to teach evolution from the 7th grade to the university level. I have 2 doctorates. I was always interested in science as a child. And so when people ask, well, what is your specialty?
Yeah.
And I say, my specialty is being a generalist.
Being a generalist.
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay too.
And so I literally speak in every area of science. I do research in every area of science, so that I'm quite current in all subjects.
Yeah.
But at the age of 27, I became a Christian, and at the age of 28, I became a creationist. And so today I'm a teaching missionary going around the world teaching on creation versus evolution.
So you have an opportunity to proselytize me now. Not that you want it, but here I am, willing to listen. I believe in the theory of evolution as a possibility. I think it's more likely to be the scenario rather than me having to be drawn on the ground in the mud of a fledgling earth by God and breathed into. Where am I wrong?
Well, I would like to correct you. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
You know, I was taught the various theories, and it's not a theory of evolution, it's the various theories of evolution. And I was an evolutionist myself. But there is a scientific alternative to that. It's called the theory of special creation. And it is a scientifically recognized theory. And the question becomes, you see, there are those scientists who believe in evolution, there are those scientists who believe in creation.
Yep.
And we both have the same evidence. So when I pick up a dinosaur fossil bone, if I were an evolutionist, I would say, oh, evolution. But I can pick up the same bone and say creation. You see, the fact of the matter is we both have the same evidence. What we have is 2 different interpretations of that evidence, and the question becomes which interpretation is the better interpretation. And so when we take a look at the laws of science, the natural processes, the physical evidence, what we actually see is that actually proves that creation is true, that evolution is not. When we take a look at the laws of thermodynamics, laws of gravity, laws of genetics, laws of motion, first of all, to have laws, you must have a lawgiver. Well, that proves that there's a God. And when we take a look at natural process, and everybody in the audience will be familiar with photosynthesis. Now, when we talk about the process by which plants convert sunlight energy into food, we have cleverly figured out what is the chemistry. That's science, period. It doesn't matter whether you believe in creation or evolution, that's science. But the instant that you say, where did it come from, the origin of it, then you're talking about creation or evolution. And that is actually a faith position. It is not a scientific position, it's a faith position.
So you either believe in one or the other.
You believe in one or the other by faith. The question again is, which is the more reasonable faith?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is called the principle of certainty. We all like to be certain.
Yep.
The principle of certainty is perhaps the second most recognized principle in science behind cause and effect. Now again, cause and effect reasoning would tell you there's a God. But the principle of certainty says that in order to be absolutely certain about anything, you have to know absolutely all there is to know about it. And of course, as humans, we are incapable of doing that. And therefore, everyone believes by faith. So the evolutionist has certain evidence, and they believe that...
Believe by faith.
By faith.
And you believe by faith in creationism.
I take the same evidence, but I then believe in creation because I believe it's a better explanation of the evidence.
By faith.
But we all believe in faith.
Oh yes, I'm saying he believes in faith, the evolutionist. Right. You believe by faith in the creationist theory.
Correct.
What encourages you to that more than what this fellow is believing?
Simply because evolution is impossible. When you take a look at the laws of genetics, it means that evolution is impossible. Genetics never produces higher level of complexity or intelligence by random chance. The laws of genetics are conservative, they're not creative. The same thing is true of, for instance, the laws of thermodynamics. It tells us that everything is going downhill. You and I, right now, per generation, humans are losing 1 to 2% of their genetic information. It's called genetic entropy. Just as the second law of thermodynamics deals with entropy in all systems and applied to genetics. So in genetics, you copy previously existing information. And when you copy something, there's always the possibility of a mistake, but you cannot copy something more perfectly. You can either copy it perfectly or imperfectly.
Yeah, but not more, yeah.
And so genetic information is always lost. It is never gained. Genetics scrambles up and loses previously existing information. And I have won major debates with evolutionists simply by asking, where did the original perfect information we are copying come from?
Yeah.
The same thing about, say, the dinosaurs. Now, of course, I am a Christian. I make no bones about that, if you'll excuse the expression. But dinosaurs and their relatives are mentioned in the Bible. We have history of people and dinosaurs living together until 131 years ago, some of it from the UK. We have, for instance, again, natural processes. None can be useful unless it is whole and complete. So all processes have to be whole and complete. Therefore, they could not have evolved from something less. Now, in the physical evidence, I grew up in the paleontology laboratories at the University of California, Berkeley. And so I learned about dinosaurs, fossils, evolutionary theory, strata, etc., from a very early childhood. But what people don't realize is that when evolutionists are teaching their evolution in textbooks, and they show you this nice, neat, clean chart of layers in the ground and illustrations of creatures that are supposed to have lived at different times in the past, that's a fabrication. That is a rearrangement.
It leads me to wonder where the first layer existed, and where was the first layer, so to speak, and why it went there. Although I'm attracted to the evolutionary theory, I don't understand the genesis of evolution, the very, very first moment of it. People will say Big Bang and go on from there. But what is it that... Well, I think it's good for you to tell us now, because it's a complex and detailed thesis you're putting forward. How did this world begin, as far as you, the scientist, are concerned?
Well, of course, evolutionists do talk about the Big Bang. But think with me. When was the last time you saw an explosion construct a building?
Never.
Never. And you never will. Explosions destruct, they do not construct. The Big Bang theories, and again there's more than one, but the various Big Bang theories are less than 100 years old, never good theories to begin with, recently disproven. On my website at creationworldview.org, there's an article there where I'm quoting evolutionary astronomers, astrophysicists, in experiments done recently, where they themselves have actually proven the Big Bang did not happen. It didn't happen. Yet this information is not being widely disseminated. And the reason for that is because of the faith part of it. You see, for those who do want to ardently believe in evolution, adamantly believe in it,
they must believe in the Big Bang.
It's a religion. And therefore, if the Big Bang is not true, then they're wrong.
They're wrong.
And so they hang on to it even though it's been scientifically disproven.
Because of the faith requirement.
Because there's a faith requirement. It's a tenet of their religion. Okay. So
from your point of view, how did the world begin? Is the biblical Genesis accurate and true, or is it a metaphor for what really happened?
Again, I was an evolutionist. Now, when I became a Christian, I did not instantaneously become a Christian and then a creationist at the same time. I became a Christian in a search for truth. Once I became a Christian, I had to reevaluate the evolution, because the Bible clearly says that God is the creator, right? And once I became a Christian, I now have a personal relationship with the creator of the universe, right? So the next question for me as a scientist is, did God use evolution to create, as some think? Or was the evolution that I had learned and taught others incorrect? So I spent 16 months starting with a blank sheet of paper, and I was reevaluating without the bias from before as to looking at the laws, the processes, and the physical evidence. Now, the physical evidence was one that I knew extremely well, But what I came to realize was, while the layers of sedimentary rock are in the ground, and the sedimentary rock layers contain fossils, the order of the layers is not what is shown in the textbook. What they do is they take a layer from over here and a layer from over there, and they rearrange the evidence, and then they claim proof. Well, that's circular reasoning that's patently illogical. When you take a look at the physical evidence in the ground, it speaks of a worldwide flood, because think with me, 75 to 80% of the entire Earth's land surface is covered with dried out mud layers. That's sedimentary rock. But scientifically, that's just dried out mud. So 75 to 80% of the entire Earth's surface is covered with dried out mud layers that contain trillions of dead plants and animals that all drowned. What we see in the ground cannot possibly be slow and gradual accumulation over millions and billions of years, little bit by little bit. It's impossible. First of all, these fossils wouldn't exist because if they died on the ground, they would have rotted, been eaten, and destroyed. They have to have been buried rapidly, and fossilization we now know is a rapid process, not a slow one. It is not what people have been taught. And so what we see is very rapid burial, very rapid fossilization in a worldwide flood only about 4,500 years ago. And that is a much better explanation of what we see in the ground than a slow and gradual process. The layers are actually upside down, out of order. Layers are missing. You know, when we take a look at things like, I think the Matterhorn is a well-known mountain in the European continent. Are you aware that the youngest layer is actually at the bottom, and that then the top layer is number 2, then the number 3, then number 4, but then number 1's at the bottom. So the whole mountain's upside down. And so we find that all over the world. We find that in mountain ranges all over the world.
And what is this telling you in terms of your belief?
It tells me that it vindicates a worldwide flood accurately described in the Bible.
And that worldwide flood happened how many years, for example, after the creation?
Well, now, the Bible is quite specific in terms of the time frame. It's 1,656 years. But we can look back as well, and it would be roughly 4,350 years ago. Roughly 2350 BC.
Yeah.
Now, what is one of the proofs of this? Well, for instance, at the mouth of all the great rivers. Now, I come from the States, so I'll say the Mississippi.
Of course.
But we could use the Amazon, the Congo, we could use the Lagan, we could use the Volga, we could use the Indus, the Ganges. It doesn't matter. All of these rivers only have 4,500 years worth of mud accumulated at their mouths, proving that the continents have only been eroding for 4,500 years.
And that's tying in with the biblical evidence that you're giving.
Think with me, initially the flood would have covered the entire earth, depositing wet mud layers everywhere that turned into sedimentary rock. But initially being mud, it would be eroded faster. That immediately brings 4,500 into 4,350 very easily. Because as the mud solidifies, the erosion rate would slow down. And so it absolutely coordinates with the flood 4,500 years ago. And I would point out to you that we have 300 scientific geochronometers. Now, a geochronometer is an Earth time clock, or universe time clock. We have over 300 of them, proving that the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe are only 6,000 years old. The single greatest one, I think, in my opinion, is the decay of the Earth's magnetic field. But the moon is moving away too fast. The Earth is losing heat too fast. The moon is still losing heat. It shouldn't. The sun is rotating too fast. We have too much dust in the solar system. We have lumpy rings around planets. We have barred spiral galaxies. It doesn't matter whether you look in or out. We have scientific arguments to prove it's all young.
But it leads me to ask you about, you're talking about the solar system, but there are billions of solar systems in the universe. Is the God you believe in the creator of all of those universes, as well as the universe that we exist in?
Okay, well, there are not other universes. There's one universe. Now, there are other galaxies.
Yeah, galaxies, I beg your pardon, yeah.
And I have no problem with there being what you're calling other solar systems, because we have found over 500 planets surrounding other stars. Now, they aren't the same kind of solar system that we have. Typically, they have one planet, 2 planets. I mean, it's not what we have.
No.
But
not that we know, because there's so much of it we can't know.
Well, that's just it. Of course, exploration continues to go further.
Yeah.
But I'm simply saying that, yes, we have found over 500. Now, I would point out to you, we have never seen them. Please understand something. They are all inferred. But I have no problem with the inference because it's good science. It's found by wobble of light due to gravity. It's all kinds of things. Shadows passing over suns. It is all quite scientific, and I have no problem with it, but we've never seen them. They're simply inferred by the evidence.
Absolutely, but that's okay for you.
But none of them could support life.
No.
Okay?
That we know of so far.
Well, and I would explain that too, but I'm simply saying scientifically we can say that none of the ones we have found would support life, period. Now, mathematically, I have no problem with there being many more planets, not only in this galaxy, but in others. That's not the issue. The issue is they can't support life, but from a biblical standpoint, even if they had plants and animals on them, that would not be unbiblical, and it would not be anything that would disprove creation. What the Bible does say, though, is this is the only place where there are people. This is the only place where there are sentient beings that can have free will, that can experience salvation. So if God wants to decorate the universe with other planets that could support life, and they have plants and animals on them, that's his problem, because he can decorate it any way he wants to. But he says categorically, this is the only place where there's anything made in his image. This is the only place where there are beings that can experience salvation. This is the only place where we have triune beings like you and I, body, soul, and spirit, who in fact can determine where we will spend an eternal destiny. That we are not thinking animals. That we in fact have an eternal destiny. And that during this lifetime we can determine where that eternal destiny will spend.
And that, for you, the proof is biblical.
That's a biblical.
And
I'm working in science here too. Like I said, there's no problem for a creationist. There's no problem for a Christian that God might have other planets with plant and animal.
Yeah, but he does not have other planets in other galaxies with sentient beings.
There's no there's no other aliens that are intelligent as we are and can do the things like we're doing.
And your evidence for that's the Bible.
My evidence is twofold. Number one, the Bible says that. That is, of course, a position.
Okay.
It says it both in the Old and in the New Testament.
Okay.
But you have to understand something. Simply because something is a mathematical possibility doesn't make it true. And the fact of the matter is, mathematics disproves evolution. Period. Just the random chance possibility that life could come from rocks alone makes evolution impossible. But assume for a moment that you think it could. The possibility of creating even one amino acid exceeds all the possibilities that we could give it. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen somebody throw a pair of dice? And I'm not talking about gambling. I'm talking about a simple home game like Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit.
Yes,
right?
yes.
The number 7 is the most common combination of 2 die. Have you ever seen anybody with a fair pair of dice throw the number 7 27 straight times?
No, absolutely not.
And it never will happen.
Yeah.
You could throw the dice 1 billion times a second for 1 trillion years, and you will never get the number 7 27 straight times. It will never happen. So the fact that you can make up these numbers, well, there's so many billions of stars that must have planets, and of those, these millions must be in a habitable zone where they could support life and have water. You can do all the math you want, but the numbers prove it can't happen.
Nothing can happen by chance.
Intelligence
doesn't come out of chance.
We experience chance in our daily lives, of course. But think with me. The chance of flipping a coin, supposedly one side over the other, is approximately 50-50. Isn't exactly true, but it's approximately, right? And if it's 1 in 2, you might bet on something. But if it's 1 in 100, you'd get hesitant, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Or 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 10,000. Now, a major evolutionist in the UK, Sir Fred Hoyle, who was a world-class astronomer,
indeed,
took a look at the numbers, the math. And what did he do? He calculated that the possibility of evolution on Earth being true was 1 in 1 followed by 40,000 zeros.
You see, I didn't have any other answer, but what Hoyle said, I often thought quietly, how did this magic occur?
Well, that's
and
just
it didn't seem likely.
Many other evolutionists have done the same thing. Hoyle's not the only one, but many of them have run the math and realized the possibility of forming one protein by chance is impossible. Do you know that a supercomputer cannot figure out how to fold a protein? But your body has 50 to 100 trillion cells in it. Your body is making proteins by the untold numbers every minute, and it folds them in less than a half a second.
Dr. McMurtry, you have certainly got me thinking this morning.
I have a gift of getting people to think.
That's not a bad gift to have. And you're going to do it over at the Newry Christian Centre.
Tonight and tomorrow morning.
Tonight and tomorrow morning there. Sir. And I do hope, the science intrigues me. And I listen to you with care, and I respect you because of your ability with science, because you are a scientist. And because evolution remains a matter of faith, just as creationism is a matter of faith.
And I do agree with that.
And we're, so that's why they're both theories and not theorems.
Well, and
they're there for
again,
the
question becomes, which is the more reasonable one?
Yeah.
Which one does the evidence actually support better? In science, where you cannot use a scientific method to prove evolution or creation, because you can't test it in the present. It's a historical event. No one can go back in time and test it. Both of us, evolutionists and creationists, have the same problem. But when that happens, to do it scientifically, what you have to do is you build models, you build sets of predictions, and you ask yourself, which one of the two do the models, the predictions, which one of those two do the facts fit best? And I will state to you categorically, creation fits the facts, the predictions better than evolution.
This day you have opened my eyes a little bit.
Thank you, sir. A pleasure.
God bless you. Go well. Take care.
Thank you.
And good luck over at the Christian Centre.
God bless you.
God bless you. Andrew will play some music.